Okay, today's lesson is solving word problems with linear combination elimination, where you are permitted to use your calculator to solve the problems. However, you still have to read the questions carefully and you have to set them up, and there's some steps you have to follow. So yesterday you did an assignment where you had to get systems in standard form and you had to use your calculator. So make sure you have your calculator memory cleared. If you don't have it cleared, remember it is second plus 712, second plus 722, and your calculator memory should be cleared now. So we're going to start on this note sheet that you should have in front of you. Before we start, let's go over how to use the calculator to solve systems, because now I'm permitting you to use it. So yesterday you learned the first thing that you need to do is press the purple apps button. After you press the purple apps button, you're going to go to number 9. Number 9 on the calculator says it's a polynomial simultaneous solver, but it says polysmelt 2. So you're going to push the purple apps, number 9. After you push 9, it says Texas Instrument, any button to continue. After you press any button to continue, you have 6 options. And you're going to press number 2, simultaneous equation solver. From that point, you should understand from yesterday what you're doing. Remember, you're not going to push any of the program buttons at the top. You have to hit next, which is the graph button. And after you do that, you will see the spot where you put your system. So those are there to refresh your memory. So let's go to this first word problem. It says in the linear system below, X represents, you got to read, tickets sold in school for a dance. And then it says Y represents the tickets sold at the door for the dance. Then there's one of these keywords that we've talked about before, total money. Remember, we talked about before when you saw a total, that indicated something was in standard form. So this equation has to be in standard form where it says total money collected was $1,440. So when I come down to the question, the first thing it says is, what does each equation mean? So I want to look at this system here on the left and make sure we know what it means before we go any further. If I look back up in the word problem, it says X represents the tickets sold in school. So this X right here is number of tickets sold in school. And then it says Y represents the number of tickets sold at the door. So this 330 has to be a total. So think to yourself, what does the 330 have to represent? This 330 represents there were 330 total tickets sold for the dance. There were 330 total tickets sold for the dance. X was the tickets sold at school. Y was the tickets sold at the door. We see this 1440 down here, and we know that is money, which means we should be able to figure out what this 4 next to the tickets sold at school represent, and what the 5 next to the tickets sold at the door represent, because there's total money is here. So if you're not sure what that represents, I'm going to tell you now. It's $4 for a ticket sold at school. And the 5 represents $5 for a ticket sold at the door. All right, so now that we've done all of that, we understand what the equation represents. The next question says, if the solution to this system is 210, 120, and remember a solution is x, y, it says, what does the solution mean? And in that word problem, it says x represents the ticket sold in school, and y represents the ticket sold at the door. So our solution would say there were 210 tickets sold at school. There were 210 tickets sold at school and 120 tickets sold at the door. And 120 tickets sold at the door. Okay, so that's a word problem. We just looked at it, we dissected it, we made sure we read it carefully to know what it means. So now let's try our first problem together, where we're going to have to write a system, use our calculator to solve it. If you want to solve it the regular way, feel free to. And then we have to write a sentence. So the first question here says, a math test has 25 problems. So I'm going to stop right there at a math test has 25 problems. Because if your math test had 25 problems, that would mean you have a total of 25 problems. So right there, we know that something has to equal 25. 25 total problems. We keep on reading, and it says some of the problems are worth 2 points. Some problems are worth 2 points, and others are worth 3 points. The test has 60 possible points on it. Well, there's your other total. 60 possible points. So something else has to equal 60. It says, how many of each type of problem is on the test? Well, I want you to put some notes over to the left. The first thing when we do these word problems is you have to define variables. The first thing that is the requirement of these word problems is you have to define variables. What does define variable mean? Well, you're going to use two variables in this problem. You're going to use an x, and you're probably going to use a y. And the x and y variables in math are used to represent something. And the two unknowns in this problem are how many of each type of problem is on the test. There were two different types of problems. So I'm going to make x number of 2-point questions. Do not just write 2-point questions, because you have to use a word that is measurable. Number of 2-point questions, because things are going to change tomorrow. Y then would be number of 5-point questions. So the two unknowns in this problem, we don't know how many 2-point questions were on the test. We don't know the number of 5-point questions on the test. We do know there were a total of 25 problems, and it was 60 possible points. So now we're going to finish and write our system. So after you define variables, you write a system. So I'm going to go back over to where it says equals 25 and equals 60. 25 represented the problems, and 60 represented the points. So we have to fill in the left side. And since x is the number of questions and y is the number of questions, I'm going to write x. Well, let me grab green, sorry. Go back and get green. I'm going to write x plus y equals 25. because the number of problems plus the number of problems has to equal 25 problems. Now, the second equation is about points. And we know every x question is worth 2 points. So you make that 2x. We also know we're adding number of 5-point questions, and those are worth 5 points. So that is how you come up with your equation for both totals. X plus y is 25, 2x plus 5y equals 60. So now you can grab your graphing calculator, and you are permitted to put these in the calculator. So I'll give you about 30 seconds. You're going to push that purple apps if you've cleared it. You're going to press number 9. Texas Instrument, any button to continue. Program number 2. You hit graph, which is next, and you're going to type in your system. So on the top row, you're using the coefficients of x and y. So you're typing in a 1, and a 25 on the right. On the bottom, you're going to type in a 2, a 5, and a 60. After you type those in, you hit solve, and you get a solution. The top is 15, the one on the bottom is 10. So going back over here to our steps, number 1 is define the variables. Number 2 is write a system. Number 3, you're solving. We solved, but we're still not done because there's one last step, number 4. Number 4 is write your answer in a sentence. Write your answer in a sentence. So our answer is 15, 10. Now remember, the ordered pair is x, y. And we defined what x and y represent. X is the number of 2-point questions. Y was number of 5-point questions. So we are going to write, there were 15 2-point questions, or you could say problems. There were 15 2-point questions and 10 5-point questions on the test. There were 15 2-point questions and 10 5-point questions on the test. And that's our first example. So you have to read it carefully, you have to define your variables, you have to write a system, you have to solve it, you have to write your answer in a sentence. Now looking at your calculator, you have a system in there. Remember, you want to clear it before you go to the next one. Not clear the memory on the calculator, just clear that system up. So let's take a look at number 2. It says Mr. Bowman is collecting money for a ski trip. He is selling tickets that give students rentals and a ski lift pass for $65. So rental ski lift pass costs $65, and the tickets that give students only a lift pass for $40. So I have 2 different things there. He collected $2,550. Well, if he collected that, that must be a total. And then it says he sold a total of 45 tickets. There's my other total. The question says, how many of each type of ticket did he sell? Well, I have to stop this video while the second video is getting ready. Think of how you could write your variables. What could you make X? What could you make Y? And see if you could come up with a system.